Hey everyone, it is late at night and I am Norman. Tonight we're actually doing it. We're going to be reviewing the watch that has unseated the Tudor, at least temporarily. I have been wearing this watch ever since it arrived, and I'm now a huge fan of the brand. Of course, the watch that I'm talking about is the Nivada Grenchen F77. This watch is so cool. I knew that I liked this watch the very first time that I saw it, but I had no idea just how much I would like it. It's just amazing. So let's review it. So here is the F77. And like I mentioned in my first video I did on this watch, this is kind of a combination of sports watches that I absolutely love, all mashed into one. So the dial kind of reminds me of an OP in a way, at least the indices and hands, and just kind of overall impression of it. The case is sort of that 70s, 80s, retro futury, almost PRX style design. It has an integrated bracelet. And when I glance down at my wrist, it sometimes reminds me of back when I had the D1 Milano. That was a really cool watch. It was just kind of large is all. But the size almost feels Explorer-ish in a way. I'm not a huge Royal Oak fan, which was part of the inspiration for the original F77, but these screws on the bezel are nice and subtle, and they actually look pretty cool. They've sort of grown on me. Alright, so beginning with the bracelet, we have push button release here, and look at all the micro adjustment. That is great. So this is definitely more than a link's worth, so you can really get this dialed in. Pop this open. It's all machined and solid. The clasp is really secure because of these buttons here. The taper on this bracelet is great and perfect for this aesthetic. It tapers down from 22 to 16. The bracelet is very comfortable and quiet and does not pull arm hair at all. Looking at the case back, the embossing on that case back is on par with something you would see by Christopher Ward. It's nice and deep and just looks great. It's a screwed down case back. Yeah, and it looks great. And look at the underside of the lugs. How they kind of curve around like that. Like the inside of a sphere, sort of. What a cool design. The integrated bracelet is interesting, and the original, I believe, was like this as well. So there actually are lugs here. It's very narrow, but this whole centerpiece here comes out. So if you wanted to get a leather strap that is designed for this end here, you can do that. This case design is really cool. It makes the entire watch look extra thin and sleek. Oh, it's gotten bumped, it looks like. I mean, I've been wearing this thing every single day since I got it. Not exclusively, I have put the Tudor back on, but this is on my wrist most of the time. It has a screwed down crown, so let's unscrew that. And we'll wind it. Very smooth. When it's full, there is a bit of torque here, which is interesting. All right, let's pop this out. The movement hacks, as you can see there. It feels nice when you're setting the time. Pop this back in. There goes the seconds hand. And now let's see what it's like to screw it in. How well does it catch? Not too bad. However, it's not as nice as the screwed down crown that I now have on the Tudor. I wonder if this is going to kind of wear out sooner than other contemporary screwed down crowns. It kind of feels a little bit, yeah. But if that happens, I'll just replace that tube. But not terrible. The crown is signed. There we go. You can kind of see it there. The case is brushed on top and polished on the sides. The top of the bezel is brushed, and then around these edges there's polishing. Look at that crystal. That is amazing. And I believe the dial is a bit divisive. I know one person that isn't a huge fan of these because of that dial, and I imagine there are others. However, they have come out with their stone dials, but it would be cool to see a variant with just a glossy or matte black, nice and minimalist, no texture on it, as well as a silver dial. That would be pretty cool. But I don't mind this dial. I think it looks great. There is a minutes track in amongst the distortions here. You can see that the markers are applied. It is kind of tough to capture this dial in video, just because it's a bit dark, and when you can get it to show up, it's sort of obscured by light reflecting off the crystal. You can kind of see its texture there. The logo of the F77 is pretty cool. And you'll notice that there's some lume on these hands, but it is not good. I have some time-lapse footage of that I'll show you in just a moment, but you essentially have, if I remember correctly, about 4 minutes of lume before it's pretty much exhausted. So the lume is definitely an aesthetic thing, not so functional. So let's look at that lume right now. So yeah, that's not very impressive, but the rest of the watch is. It does have a wide wingspan, so if you have a smaller wrist, that could be a problem for you. My wrists are 55 millimeters wide, and this is just about at the biggest I think I would go, the widest wingspan I would go for my wrists. As for the specifications on this watch, the case size is 37 millimeters, and I feel like that is a pretty flexible size. I personally like smaller watches, yet this wasn't a huge shock to have this on the wrist, going from a 35 millimeter Tudor to the 37 of this. It wasn't overly shocking. Yet, if you're used to contemporary sized watches with the wingspan and just overall aesthetic of this, I don't think you would be shocked at how small it is. So I feel like it's a great size for this design. The height is 12.6 millimeters, but this watch wears really thin. And bear in mind that includes this case back that kind of extends down below the case body, and this crystal that adds some height to it. The lug to lug is 45 millimeters. However, you can see this end link here sticks out a bit. So it's actually probably a bit more than that, although this does angle down. So the crystal is sapphire. The movement in these watches is the Soprod P024. And my understanding is that's a pretty reputable movement by the brand. And this has 100 meters of water resistance. Tonight I am wearing one of my other sports watches, the Everest. And after wearing the F77 for a few weeks, it's kind of funny to put this one on because the watch head seems so tiny. And the bracelet seems so big because it doesn't really taper anywhere near like the F77. So my sense of proportion is a bit skewed going from that watch to this one, at least initially. But yeah, the Everest is amazing. So let me take this off and we'll see what the F77 looks like when you're wearing it. And there it is, the F77 on my 7-inch wrist. Again, my wrist is 55 millimeters wide. So you can see how that wingspan pretty much covers the entirety of my wrist. But it looks so good. Look at how snug to the wrist it looks. It wears very thin. And I kind of knew it would from looking at the pictures when I first encountered this watch. One of you guys actually suggested this brand, but a different model. However, when I went to their website and saw the F77, that was the one. And yeah, that just looks absolutely amazing. That is so cool. There you have it, the watch that is currently my absolute favorite steel sports watch. Thanks for watching.